Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet.
Thank you for listening to the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Gaelika Brown. If you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast platform and write a review. Now, I am not a sex expert, but I love me some Dr. Ruth. However, I am not her. But I have spent some time on this earth and have experienced some things and have witnessed some things. And because I am an excellent listener, I have heard some things. I'm a student of human behavior and I love to learn. I love to research topics and present what I've learned, which is what I do on this podcast. And of course, I'm going to give my 2 cents about the matter. But I will also include what experts have to say. So, let's talk about sex. Now, last week I did an episode on BDSM. We are going to dig a little deeper on the subject and break down the BD portion of BDSM. Now, the BD stands for Bondage and Discipline. Kinkly.com breaks down the definition as safe, sane, and consensual, is a motto that's at the forefront of any bondage and discipline enthusiast's mind. Safety comes first in bondage and discipline scenes, which means that all acts are made as safe as possible. Dominant should not tie up their submissive too tightly, for instance, and partners should agree on safe words to be used to stop play at any time. Sanity is another important aspect of bondage and discipline. This means that players should basically use their heads and not participate in obviously dangerous activities. Finally, consent is probably the most important aspect of bondage and discipline, as well as other similar acts. Each partner, whether they're dominant or submissive, must perform consensually and of their own free will. They should also be able to stop the scene with a safe word whenever they want to, and for any reason. So a university sex info site explained why people may practice B&D. Although BDSM has existed in society for thousands of years, it still remains a taboo topic. Many non-BDSM members resort to myths or stereotypes in order to understand the reasoning of practicing BDSM from an outsider's perspective. It's not possible to assign a reason to every BDSM practitioner's desire to participate in BDSM activities, but there have been many interviews and research studies conducted to get a comprehensive and unbiased understanding of why people practice BDSM. Many BDSM practitioners find respite. Yes. They find respite within the inclusion and supportive community. In many societies, there are limitations to strong emotional expression. Human sexuality and the human body are often kept private. BDSM can offer an opportunity to release this desire for expressionism through intense and emotional activities. These practices can generate forms of healing, love, affection, vulnerability, and connection that many members of the BDSM community enjoy expressing through their sexual desires. BDSM can bring an immense amount of sexual pleasure to the individuals involved, and many practitioners report this being their main motive for involvement with the BDSM community. In addition, many members express that BDSM is a form of escape. The self-identifying and versatile aspects of BDSM, as well as a wide range of practices available, offer individuals a way to temporarily replace their reality with any fantasy of their choosing. They are able to let go of daily societal norms and express themselves in a completely different environment. That same site provides suggestions on how to get involved in that community. It says the online resources alone offer endless opportunities to talk to other BDSM practitioners, learn about different practices, gain tips or advice, and much more. They are also a great place for newcomers to explore their options from the comfort and privacy of their own home. FetLife is a popular social networking site for all members of the BDSM and kink community alike. Here, individuals can join discussion groups dedicated to specific sexual activities as well as chat with other members. Another favorable resource is Reddit, a discussion-based website comprised of various topics called subreddits. Subreddits such as BDSM community and BDSM advice provide a safe environment for open discussion and support. Some websites that focus on meeting members in person include BDSM Date, Caller Space, and Meetup, which organizes BDSM gatherings worldwide. If you find the desire to explore the BDSM community further, you may enjoy the experience of a kink club or kink convention. Kink clubs offer a fun play space for individuals or partners to explore BDSM in a safe, monitored, and open-minded environment. These clubs are found all around the world, typically in larger cities. You can find kink clubs in your area by doing an online search or asking others through forums and chat rooms, such as the online resources listed above. Kink conventions are large-scale events that celebrate the many aspects of BDSM and attract people from all over the world. These conventions may have seminars, workshops, fetish models, and photographers, vendors, and more. Kink Fest is a 3-day convention held in Portland that celebrates all aspects of sexual diversity and the kink communities. These conventions may also be themed, such as DomCon, a Los Angeles-based convention focused on domination aspect of BDSM. Whether you are exploring online or going out to a BDSM event, remember to be aware of the safety precautions involved when meeting strangers. We recommend refraining from sharing your personal information with someone you do not know or trust. So tips for beginners exploring BDSM with a partner. Step 1, talk with your sexual partner. Step 2, listen to your partner. Step 3, explore ideas further. Step 4, set boundaries. Step 5, go slowly. Step 6, check in. Step 7, explore. So the steps above offer some guidance for incorporating BDSM into your sex life. When exploring BDSM, it is important to remember that every individual's experience may be different. Therefore, consistent communication can greatly enhance the BDSM experience for all partners involved. And as always, I always say, when it comes to any relationships, communication is key. So let's take a break and return with what people from the BD community have to say.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sex Podcast. Now, we have broken down what bondage and discipline is. We spoke some on why some people may partake in it. A government site, PubMed, investigated whether or not it could be considered recreational leisure. A convenient sample of BDSM participants, that sample includes 935 people, completed an online survey, 9 demographic questions, and 17 leisure questions that assess BDSM experience according to important attributes of leisure. Responses also were assessed and statistically compared as being primarily casual or serious leisure according to general BDSM identities, i.e. dominance versus submissives versus switches. Main outcome measures, well, BDSM experiences were assessed as a form of potential leisure. The results, most BDSM experiences met leisure criteria. Participants reported that most of the time, or nearly always, BDSM was associated with a sense of personal freedom. 89.7% of participants. Pleasure or enjoyment, 98.5%. Sense of adventure, 90.70%. Use of personal skills. I don't know what them personal skills are, but hey, 90.8%. Relaxation or decreased stress, 91.4%. Self-expression or exploration, 90.6%. And positive emotions, 96.6%. BDSM seemed to function as primarily serious rather than casual leisure. All right, so let's scrap all the scientific research and medical talk. And what do people who participate in BD have to say? Well, Cosmo has an article entitled 5 People Get Super Honest About Their BDSM Lifestyle. So this topic, what are your favorite BDSM-ish things to do in bed? I love restraint and/or impact play. I enjoy being choked, bound, spanked, and bitten, and exploring breath play. While bound, I enjoy wrist and ankle cuffs, as well as being bound with rope or silk scarves. Being restrained allows me to submit fully, so adding a blindfold into the mix with bondage incorporates sensory play and makes everything that's done to my body feel 10 times better. Tammy, 31. I love corporal punishment, tease and denial, and worship. Jane, 33. Bondage and role play are big parts of my sex life with my dominant. Ropes, duct tape, ball gags, typical damsel in distress stuff in our heavy scenes. I like to experience toys like floggers, paddles, and canes for intensity, and then rabbit fur or feathers for a counterbalance soft effect. It all tends to act more like foreplay before sex, but it's not uncommon to incorporate things like spanking and nipple play in our lovemaking as well. Denise, 29. Specifically, I like edge play that involves some amount of restraining the other person while asphyxiating them off and on. I'm also super into sensory deprivation. Most people find they also are because it heightens anticipation. Let me be clear. Most of this cannot happen on a bed. Allison, 25. I really like domination, impact play, and restraints. I also like bare bottom spanking or using implements like whips or paddles to cause sensation on my skin from light to intense. I also love doing strap-on sex with partners, especially with my male partners. Kyla, 33. So are you dominant, submissive, or a switch? I'm a switch. I'm submissive to my husband and other female partners, but I'm dominant with most other partners. Tammy, 31. Dominant, Jane, 33. I'm submissive to one man, Denise, 29. I'm dominant. However, I have been a switch for the sake of my partner or with partners who want to see what happens first and want them to be comfortable. For example, I will show them that the wax doesn't leave burns on me or that nothing will cause bloodshed. Allison, 35. I'm a switch, but I lean submissive. Kyla, 33. Now, how old were you when you first tried BDSM? I was introduced to BDSM activities in my early 20s on accident. I was playing with a partner who didn't want me to move my position, but I decided not to listen to his request. One thing led to another, and I didn't expect him to move so swiftly or use force with me. But when he did, I quickly discovered that my body responded positively to his restraints. Once I told him I liked it after getting over the initial shock, I realized this was something I needed to look more into. Tammy, 31. Probably around 16 or 17, I had a male peer worship my foot in a supermarket. Jane, 33. I've always been curious about it since my first sexual encounter, but I didn't really get to experience it until I was 24 and met my dominant, Denise, 29. I was 17. I didn't know what I was doing was a form of BDSM, but I was really just saying horrible things to my partner. Now as an adult, I realized it was humiliation. Allison, 35. There were several times in high school when partners would do things with me that I didn't know were BDSM at the time, like being tied up and controlling me or doing consensual fear play, dragging a knife across my body sensually as a way to take me to the edge of trust with him. Kyla, 33. What made you want to try it? When I consciously began to explore BDSM in 2016, I wanted to express a side of myself that I was experiencing fear around. Being a Black woman who enjoys dominating and being dominated isn't something we see regularly in mainstream depictions of BDSM play. I wanted to move past those misconceptions and connect and express myself fully without shame. Tammy, 31. I love the power of having men do what I wanted and seeing them beneath me. Jane, 33. It just seemed to be everything that I wanted in my sex life. It seemed fun, exciting, and extremely passionate. Denise, 29. I was always the sort of person who would push things to the edge, watch the scariest movie, or go on the scariest rides. When I started becoming sexually active, all I could think about was how these three bases weren't it. There had to be more than this. Allison, 35. I remember seeing a scene in the Addams Family when I was 6 where Morticia was tied to a torture wheel and Gomez was talking to her in such a sensual and passionate way. Since then, I had always wanted to experience that kind of dynamic of mixing fear and consensual loving torture with passionate love. Kyla, 33. That's crazy because as soon as I read that, I remember the scene like vividly. And, obviously I was a little kid when the Addams Family was out, and then when they made the movie, but that was a family show, and they legit did have some BDSM up in there. That's crazy. Like, hindsight 2020, you watch stuff as an adult that you watch as a kid, and you're like, oh my gosh, like the innuendos, and that wasn't even an innuendo, that was just straight up BDSM. So, another topic. How important is BDSM to your sex life? BDSM is an important part of my sex life because I express some part of it within my play consistently. This is a form of erotic self-expression that makes me feel complete. Again, the acts that I enjoy are pleasurable within themselves, so sometimes a spanking session is the sex. Tammy, 31. It's pretty important in my sexual relations with people, but I wouldn't say it's a requirement. But again, where do you draw the line of BDSM and creative sex? However, I am always in a dominant role. That's non-negotiable. Jane, 33. BDSM is very important for my sex life, but it's not something I need every time I have sex. Vanilla sex is just as necessary. It's good to mix things up. Denise, 29. It's very important. It doesn't have to happen every time we have sex, but it's more than half the time. Allison, 35. We hear sirens. I don't care. We're finishing this up. It's really important. It gave me my sexuality back. I suffered from pelvic pain. That's not why the sirens are coming. But I suffered from pelvic pain for over a decade, and I was able to have a fulfilling sex life again by finding ways to enjoy sexual activities, and experience deep orgasms with another partner without ever having to be penetrated vaginally. I don't have to have BDSM activities included in every sexual situation. However, I do see being kinky as my sexual orientation. I'm hardwired to seek out these kinds of sexual situations and engagements with someone. Kyla, 33. So she's not having vaginal sex at all then? She's able to just get off by doing these kinks? It's interesting. All right, so let's take a break, and when we return, we will break down some of the terminology that was brought up in this segment.
You really can't underestimate the importance of having the right creative work for your brand or your product. Whether it's a logo, a website, a book cover, or an ad campaign, you really need a quality design to make that big difference pop and deliver your overall engagement and success in a competitive market. That's where Design Crowd comes in. Design Crowd has over 750,000 designers from Sydney to San Francisco ready to help you with awesome creative ideas. They make crowdsourcing work for you. So if you need a logo or you're working on your creative branding, you can go to designcrowd.com and post a brief describing the design you need. And then within about 2 to 7 days, you'll receive up to over 100 different designs from designers around the world. Then you pick the best design and approve payment to the designer. So you're only paying for the design that you want. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of freelancing and out of crowdsourcing. And you don't have to be a huge company like Harvard Business School to use Design Crowd, although they have used it as well. You can start a project on Design Crowd for as little as $99. And if you go right now to designcrowd.com/health and wellness or enter the promo code health and wellness on their website, then our health and wellness listeners will receive up to $150 off of your design project. That's designcrowd.com/health and wellness or entering that promo code health and wellness.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sex Podcast. I'm your host, Gaelika Brown. We've been talking about BD. Let's get some definitions. Cosmo breaks down breath play. Breath play refers to the BDSM practice of having your breathing restricted during sexual activity. It is one of the riskiest acts when it comes to kinky sex, or, life in general. Not only is it potentially fatal, but the risk of injury is so alarmingly high if not done under the best scenarios and with an extremely experienced partner who prioritizes safety with the utmost importance. Breath play is so controversial, in fact, that many in the kink community don't think it should be taught or engaged in at all, explains Carol Queen, PhD resident sexologist at Good Vibrations. In order to ever fully safely participate in breath play, which typically involves choking or restraint in some way, you and your partner need a strong understanding of the neck and anatomy in order to avoid cutting off circulation that results in injury or worse, death, says Kayla Lords, sexpert for jackandjilladult.com and co-host of the podcast Loving BDSM. Safe words aren't enough. You need 2 extra layers of protection, a safe gesture, and perhaps most importantly, A partner who continuously checks in on you and doesn't just rely solely on safe words or gestures adds lords. There's extra risk in your partner has asthma or other lung or breathing conditions, says Queen. Mechanical or human error. Some stores sell masks with holes in them that the dom is supposed to cover up in order to restrict the sub's breathing, but this isn't necessarily safer. There's always a chance that the mask might not work and you get stuck trying and failing to get it off. Or you and your partner might be unable to work the mask in the heat of the moment and can't remove it that way. No matter how experienced you might be with breath play, you truly never know. For example, as life or death in legit life. For something as life or death, as legit life or death, that's a lot of risk. Okay, so that's a breath play. Isn't that what killed the actor from that Kung Fu show? All right, so what's impact play? Impact play or BDSM practice where one partner strikes another with their hands or a toy for sexual gratification. Can sound a little intimidating if you don't know where to start. But impact play doesn't have to be extreme. The beauty of it is that it's consensual activity between you and your partner, which means you both get to define the intensity of the action, ranging from soft love taps to harder smack that ass slaps that can leave a mark. When it comes to where to start, the buttocks and inner thighs have the most protective fat and muscles, explains Cadence Smith, intimacy coach and co-founder of Kink Kit. So these areas are good to experiment with. Other parts of the body have thinner skin or cover vital organs and can be damaged with less effort, she adds. On a physical level, a strike on your butt, upper thighs, or other erogenous zones stimulates your skin nerves receptors and can trigger the release of feel-good endorphins and the neurotransmitter dopamine. The smack itself may feel amazing to you, but it can also make any pleasurable touch that follows feel heightened too, resulting in potential grand slam climax. Now on to our last term, gentle femdom. Again, Cosmo breaks it down. Think of gentle femdom as female domination without the elements of pain, harsh punishment, or humiliation. It can be sexual, only BDSM based, or roleplay based. As Carol Queen, PhD resident sexologist at Good Vibration says, gentle femdom is more infused with love and nurturing. It will often focus on roles that have power, like mommy or teacher, but also have nuance and care built in. Queen adds, the erotic component of gentle femdom can be pleasure-focused, or it can just be about dominance without pain and intensity that is often associated with non-gentle kink play. How does it differ from regular femdom? Femdom as a larger umbrella term can refer to domination ranging from gentle to very fierce and intense, depending on the dom. The female spelling of dom. A partner's interests and limits, says Quinn. It's just between a female dom and a male sub, right? Not at all. Gentle doming is for everyone, no matter what gender expression or sexuality they identify with, explains Mistress Couple, a professional dominatrix and author of The Ultimate Guide to Bondage. From the sub's perspective, Queen says that while the classic armchair psychologist analysis of a male sub might bring to mind a CEO with too much power that he needs to feel subservient, you don't have to be a powerful exec to want to be dominated by a woman. There are dudes out there who just want a partner to exercise power over them. And this doesn't automatically mean it has to include pain or rougher play. Some subs feel that it is easier to feel loved and cared for in such a scene. From the dom's perspective, if you don't love the idea of inflicting pain on your partner, but do want to play with a power dynamic, this can be a great kink to experiment. With gentle femdom, it's a very easy kind of play to slide into and allows new to kink couples to ease into things. Not to mention, for some women who have never really been encouraged to take power, this can be an extra exciting dynamic to try out. It can be based on roles that are already coded female, even feminine, and that's appealing to some. Couples says she personally finds that the love, care, and empathy that are involved in a gentle femdom dynamic really help to create a safe container for the more violent or taboo activities that a couple might want to try. These qualities also contribute to deepening devotion, a key aspect of any BDSM dynamic. Is there a male version of gentle doming? Totally. Just like how there's a mommy play seen in gentle femdom, there's daddy play in the gentle form of a male doming. What are some examples of common gentle femdom activities? Couple says that of a common BDSM activities, teasing and denial, sensual or sensation play that utilizes different temperatures. Think a glass or steel dildo that can get warm or be cooled down to the touch. And leash walking could be used in a gentle femdom dynamic. Role play is also big, according to Queen. So there you have it, the basics of BD. I definitely appreciate your time. I thank you for listening to the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Until next time, I'm Gaelika Brown.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast.